Imagine a nation on the brink of financial collapse. Banks failing one after another, crowds screaming outside locked doors, and no central bank to save them. In the middle of that storm stood one man, puffing on a cigar inside a dimly lit library, deciding which banks would live and which would die. His name was John Pierpont Morgan. It was the autumn of 1907. New York City, the beating heart of American finance, woke up under a blanket of fog. The usual rhythm of the stock exchange, the shouting, the ringing bells, had turned to chaos. Investors were terrified. Bankers whispered in corridors. Small shop owners rushed to withdraw their savings before it was too late. At that time, the United States had no central bank. There was no Federal Reserve, no lender of last resort, only private banks, powerful financiers, and faith. And no one inspired more fear, respect, and reliance than J.P. Morgan, a man in his 70s, famous for his piercing eyes, thick mustache, and unshakable authority. The disaster began with a failed gamble. A group of speculators tried to corner the shares of the United Copper Company. When their scheme collapsed, the banks that had lent the money also began to fall. Rumors spread like wildfire. This bank is next. That trust is insolvent. And soon depositors lined up outside every financial institution in Manhattan. One journalist captured the mood perfect. L.Y.
People no longer believed in money. They believed in rumors.
As panic tightened its grip, one question echoed through Wall Street.
What will Morgan do?
Despite his age and poor health, Morgan turned his private library on Madison Avenue into an emergency command center. Its heavy oak doors closed, and behind them gathered America's most powerful men, bankers, brokers, industrialists. Standing in the center, cigar smoke curling around him, Morgan spoke in his deep, steady voice.
Gentlemen, this nation will not fall, not on my watch.
From that moment on, his library became the unofficial Federal Reserve. Morgan and his team worked day and night, sorting through balance sheets, identify which banks could be saved and which had to fail. He personally injected millions of dollars of his own fortune to keep the financial system afloat. At one critical moment, he summoned the heads of New York's largest banks. Once they arrived, he locked the doors, literally, and pocketed the key. The room went silent.
No one leaves until we all agree on how much cash each of you will commit to the rescue fund.
After hours of tense negotiation, the bankers relented. Together, they pledged over $25 million, a fortune at the time, to stabilize the market. That decisive act stopped the chain reaction. The panic began to fade. The next morning, newspapers across the country hailed him as a hero. J.P. Morgan saves Wall Street. To many Americans, he was a savior, the man who prevented an economic apocalypse. To others, he was terrifying. One private citizen had just wielded the power of a central bank, but no one could deny the result. Without him, the U.S. economy might have collapsed completely. When asked later how he had managed to stay calm amid the chaos, Morgan replied simply,
Character is more important than capital. Money cannot buy trust.
By early 1908, the markets had stabilized, yet lawmakers realized a dangerous truth. America could not rely on the fortune and goodwill of one man. In response, Congress began drafting what would become the Federal Reserve Act. And in 1913, the same year J.P. Morgan passed away, the Federal Reserve System was born. Morgan's decisive actions during the Panic of 1907 had shown exactly why such an institution was needed. J.P. Morgan's story is not just about wealth. It's about leadership under pressure. When everyone else was paralyzed by fear, he acted. When others counted their losses, he counted his responsibilities. In the darkest hour of American finance, he proved a timeless truth. In every crisis, money follows confidence, and confidence follows courage.